Easy. Hey, what's going on, world? It's Sneakywism here. If you haven't heard, I decided to write a book, Sneakywism's Laws of Power, How to Become a God of Oneself. It's an antithesis to Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, which I feel like is a book about how to become a god in the corporate realm or the god in the business realm. It's basically about, his book is more about achieving external power, which I would say is like, AKA is like got power over others. Mine is going to be more based upon achieving internal power. Becoming a god of oneself. Let's see. Before I get started, like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube page. If you follow the vlogs that I'm going to be giving, you're pretty much going to be getting like a rough draft of the actual book itself. So I'm actually giving you the book as I'm like writing it. Let's see here. Yeah, and if you find it in your heart that you want to donate to help offset some of the book publishing costs, I'm gonna have the website down here, www.sneakywism.com/law. It's either law or laws. Sorry, you'll see it down there. But yeah, and like I said, if you're not comfortable with GoFundMe, I have a PayPal and Cash App option. So yep. Like, let's get started because I got a lot to cover. Let me see. Law number 1. For me, it's going to be called Be the Master. Shine bright and never dim your light. Basically, this is an antithesis to Robert Greene's first law, which is never outshine the master. And it's actually funny, and it makes a lot of sense that this is the first law. In his book, he actually goes about giving a good 3 or 4 examples of why you should never outshine the master. Outshine the master or your boss. Basically, you should play a certain character that's below your... Don't be your entire authentic self around your boss as a means to make them feel better or smarter or wiser than they are. Playing a certain role so that you can move up in the business realm and achieve certain external heights of power. The reason I have so much of a problem with this law is because everything that he's teaching you to do chips away at your internal power. I say this because, like I said, playing a certain role or a certain character beneath yourself, everything that it does over time is going to eat away at you internally. Because like I said, for me, okay, I'll go into this. Like, he calls these people, it's about never outshining the master. But I almost despise that he uses the term master to describe the people just as being higher than you. I say that because I feel like there's a difference between what I would call external masters and internal masters. The masters that he's referring to in his book are the ones that I would call external masters. I would define an external master as somebody who really feels that they only feel good based upon, how much external wealth they've accrued, whether it be money. They only really feel good based upon whatever position or rank that they were given based off external power, external factors, whether it's a company that gave them a position of CEO or a boss or whatever. And they probably only feel comfortable based upon how many people that they view as below them, whether they be their employees or not. And I would call internal masters as, I've talked about this in the past, they're probably somebody, internal power to me is more based upon like your moral compass. Usually have a high moral compass, a high spiritual IQ, and really a high level of integrity, like true character. That's what, to me, what internal power is about. And that's why I have a big problem with the first law in Greene's book, because everything that he's telling you to do, it almost goes against everything that would build your internal power. Like, just playing that role beneath yourself is going to chip away at your integrity. It's going to chip away at your moral compass, and it's bad for you spiritually too. I almost feel like it has a lot to do with the climate of how like America is today. You got a lot of people that are not feeling good like at work because they know whether a lot of people who haven't even read this book, it's almost like consciously, well, subconsciously they do this anyway, because we can feel when we're working and our boss is more of like in what I would call an external master, somebody who only feels good based off of these things. So I've been in jobs before where you actually do play a certain role underneath yourself because you know it'll make your boss feel comfortable, and you know it might actually help you brown nose your way into higher positions and things. It makes sense. But yeah, he gives different examples in his book about how like certain people, they didn't achieve like, you know, higher levels of power because they outshine the master. Basically, they didn't play a lower version of themselves. You know what I'm saying? Because playing that lower version of themselves plays into these external masters' insecurity. And that's one thing I have noticed. Every example he gave was every one of these supposed masters, they had a very high level of insecurity. And all of us can relate. We've all worked for bosses like that. I can pretty much tell you that 70 or 80, 90% of bosses actually work like that. In the corporate and business realm, it seems like those are the ones who get promoted the fastest and actually get elevated the fastest. It has a lot to do. So I say all that to say this: a lot of the people that are in higher positions in the corporate realm are people with the highest levels of insecurity. They're actually craving these. They're craving. I think I've said this in the past, but the people who crave the most external power, the people who crave the most power over others, are usually the most people who lack the most internal power. They lack that internal self-esteem. That's why they look for everything outside of themselves to justify, you know what I mean? They want everybody else to see them as this perceived master. So in this book where he's talking about don't outshine the master, he's referring to these people who in my mind aren't masters to begin with. I felt like I had to go into that because anytime you're working for somebody or with somebody and you feel like you have to play a certain way to make them feel comfortable, they're not a master in any sense of the way, in any sense of the term. In my mind, yeah, they're external masters. They're, like I said, they only feel like a master based off of those external factors, whether it be the money they're making, the position given by whatever company or outside factors, or yeah, just how many people supposedly work under them. They thrive on the actual business corporate setup. Yeah, it's really interesting. And I'm no different. I remember when I was younger, I think I was like 15 or 16, and I was working at this job, and I was really proud of myself when I was doing everything right, and I became like an assistant manager. And then I think I became a manager, and I actually found pride in having that manager on my badge. But yeah, that was me. I was young. I hadn't defined what I define now as internal power versus external power. So, and I was very insecure. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have the internal power that I've built up in myself now, to where, yeah, I was one of those ones. And if I'd have never found myself, I'd probably still be one of those ones. Yeah, but let me see. I got some notes, and like I said, yeah, I don't know if I said it yet, but one of the quotes that I wanted to give is the Kendrick Lamar quote: "I can't fake humble just because your ass is insecure." When you're actually dealing with internal power, you don't have to play these type of fake ass roles to make other people insecure. I mean, to make other people feel secure. But that's only if you're dealing with other people that or, you know, fuck with internal power, which is very rare. But yeah, let me see here. And also, I don't like the whole playing a certain role in the workplace to make your external masters feel a certain way, because in the end, if, like every example in here, these people either end up losing their jobs or not getting promoted to certain aspects because they didn't play this role below themselves to make their masters feel comfortable. And in my mind, of course, in Green's book, it makes them appear as like they took a loss. But in my mind, a lot of times a short-term loss can turn into a long-term gain. In situations like that, I almost look at those are like gifts from the universe. A lot of times when you find out about someone's character in the short term, it actually helps you in the long term. Like when I learned about people's character in the past, it really made me want to, one, start my own shit, and two, just made me want to build internal power. But so like I said, I never looked at any of the perceived losses in this book as losses, because in the end, externally what might look like a loss helped them keep their internal power. Like I said, you keep your integrity, you keep your high moral compass, and it helps you spiritually too. Like I said, I think there are people out here who are actually like, they feel like they're suffering from like mental illness and stuff. A lot of it has to do with the roles that they have to play with their job. They feel like they're playing two different roles. Like when they go home, they're a certain way, and then when they go to their job, they have to be a certain way. And it trickles down into their relationships in general, in other facets of life. Like when you have to play a certain role at your job that's beneath you, and you go home and it's like you feel like less of a man, you know what I'm saying? And that might actually help eat away at like your relationship with your lady, because you're not happy at your job, because you know at your job you have to play this role of somebody you don't want to play. And it's really interesting. So in the end, I feel like when these type of situations happen, take them as, like I said, it might look like a short-term loss, but in the end, use them, take them, and go home to where you can go home and build your internal power up so much to where you have no other way but to like either just start your own shit or find a career that allows you to where you don't have to deal with those kind of corporate shenanigans. Because in the end, the same shit that'll help you propel you to achieve external power in the workplace is the same shit that's going to eat away at your soul. And I'm telling you from first hand, I tried to work these jobs where like you got to play a certain way. That's why I'm not working in like the corporate realm right now. And trust me, I know how to do it. I know how to play that role. I know how to look the part. I know how to play the part. But when you come home, you're not happy. When you go to sleep, you're not happy. When you go home and you're not even happy, you're looking forward to the next day at your job, and you know you clock in and you gotta turn that light bulb on. Yes, I'm alpha. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that. But yeah. Let me see. But yeah, basically, yeah. And I don't believe in using Robert Greene's so-called book to encourage you to be submissive to another man and or woman or whatever. Basically, this whole chapter was about just playing this submissive character to make the people above you feel better. And like I said, it'll help you raise up. Y'all know how it works. Them people that do the most brown nosing and play these, you know, the corporate games and shit, they're the ones who get promoted the quickest, and they move to the highest in the company and shit. And it's cool. Like I said, it's cool. But in the end, they're the ones that gotta live with themselves. They're the ones that when they go home and they're all by themselves, they don't feel as powerful as they do at their job. And that's why certain roles, I'm getting into a different part, but that's why you have certain positions at jobs that, like, they have those positions where it's managers, and even the ones that might not have the title name, they're the ones that have the big uniforms. There's a reason why, oh, this can sound bad. There's a reason why, like, police officers wear these extravagant uniforms with the gun and the badge and all that. It's to make them feel powerful externally. They only feel powerful based off that uniform that they're wearing. But when they take that shit off and go home, they don't feel powerful, bro. But let me see. And another thing too, just even how it's worded, if you're viewing another man as your master, and I know I'm taking it to the next level, I'm sure that's not what he means by in the book of, like, but he does really say don't outshine the master. So if you are viewing another man or another person in general as your master, then you're already losing in life. And that's the type of shit, that's the type of outlook on life that's gonna make you lose certain aspects of your internal power. It makes you feel like less of a man when you have to, when you have to do these things, when you, it almost, like, I understood that Dame Dash interview, the Breakfast Club interview, but I understand it even more now as I, like, build my internal power more and I get the balls to, like, start my own stuff. Even if it's not for, like, me, I'm not really so much into, like, business aspect. But I am one that, like, I know I have to start my own shit. Because I know I've gotten to a point where I feel like I said, I'm always working towards being a god of oneself, or a master of oneself. So in the end, the goal is to start your own shit. That's why, like I said, I went from finding external power through those positions, like I said in the past, of being a manager of a company. That's just a role given to me from that company, from an external factor. That shit is not real. The only thing real in my life is the titles that I've given myself. I created Nikiism. The only title in my life that's real is I am a Nikiist and nothing more. I'm not a college graduate. That was given to me by, sure, I might have earned it, but that was given to me by a school. You know what I'm saying? That was given to me by an external factor. I'm not I don't identify with any terms that I don't give myself. And I feel like you should do the same also. I don't know. But, I'll say this. If you do feel like there are good bosses out here. You know what I'm saying? And if you are working for one of those bosses where you feel like you have to play that certain role is not to outshine the master, you're either working for the wrong company or the wrong boss. And I know that sounds bad because that's probably 70-80% of the workplace, but it really lets you know that the goal should be, and I'm speaking for you and me, like my eventual goal, like I always use myself as an example. Like I'm not where I want to be yet as far as in the business realm, but there's a certain reason why I have chosen like certain professions right now. Eventually my goal is to like totally work for myself. But right now, the reason I am like a truck driver is because there is a certain freedom allowed to this job. Like, I really don't have anybody that I answer to. I do have somebody that I would call, I guess the term for them is manager, but they're not really manager. I don't answer to anybody. I have somebody who they send me loads on a computer, and I don't have to talk to them unless I haven't done something right with my job. Pretty much the way my job is set up, they give me a load in the computer, tell me to be there at this time to pick it up, get there at that time, drop it off. And I never have to talk to anybody unless I haven't done something right. Which in the end, like I still work for a company, and in the end, in the future, my goal is to not have to work for a company or whatever. But I say all that to say this, like, it is easier for me to like sleep at night, because I tried to work those jobs where like you're being micromanaged, and I can't do it. And it kind of really has to do with, I know for a fact it eats at my internal power. I can't sleep good at night knowing I gotta wake up every day, and when I'm in front of another person that has this name tag that says they're higher than me, I have to act a certain way around them. Nah, nigga, I can't do that shit. Some people can, and I don't view you as any kind of way, but I know for a fact that it eats away at you internally. Yeah. Oh yeah, I will say this. I have had roles at jobs where, like, I think if you're viewing someone as your master, then yeah, you're totally losing in life. But that sounds bad. But I do believe in that saying that when the student or the pupil is ready, like, the master will appear. I think there are certain masters that are masters of their craft that you can learn from. Like, I remember even with the job I had in the past, I had it for like a while, where I was, like I said, it was like a mentor for like youth. A friend of mine, Rick, got me the job, and my boss there was I hope they're not upset I'm saying the names, but my boss was like Miss Julia. And I told him that I was like, I almost view her and him as like the masters that showed up in my life. You know what I'm saying? To help me in a lot of ways to learn from. Because I looked at them as masters of that craft of what they were doing, and I wanted to learn from them so I could be good at that job. But in the end, I never looked at them as my masters per se. I looked at them as masters of their craft that I wanted to build with and connect with, to learn from, so that I could become an eventual master at that craft. And yeah, and I learned a lot from them. And yeah, I don't know, I say all that to say that, yeah. So there's like a difference too. But let me see, sorry guys. Okay, one thing I do agree with is part of the whole not outshining the master is kind of like playing dumber than you are, I guess. But I feel like there's a difference between playing dumb as a means to like achieve certain external power. Basically, I do believe in playing dumb to control. I call it playing dumb to control the narrative, but not even that. I believe in like playing dumb just to avoid having even meaningless conversations with people that you know won't see your viewpoint. So it's almost like just let them, you know, when you're talking to somebody and you know it's like, you know, let them have that. Basically, excuse me, just playing dumb just as a means to not waste your time in like frivolous arguments or like wasted discourse with people that are like, you know, yeah, just as a means of not wasting your time, but not playing a certain character or playing dumb as a means to, you know, look a certain way to somebody so that you can elevate at a job or get a higher position or whatever. But yeah, so in the end, I feel like it always is gonna come to a point where like, yeah, the corporate realm is just, yeah, to where, like I said, it's being the master and finding, even if it is a job, finding one to where you could be the master of your craft without having to dim your light at all. You know what I mean? Whether it's starting your own business or just finding like jobs like to me, that's why I'm truck driving, and I kind of explain that part. Another position I always found a lot of parallels in that I admired is people that are like cooks. Whenever I connect with cooks, they're usually like, I say this, like, a lot of times I meet a lot of truck drivers and cooks, and they're allowed to be their positions while being, you know, a lot of them are assholes. And when I say that, I don't mean it like that. It's just they never dim their light for anybody, because they know, like, I meet a lot of cooks when I was doing like Uber and Lyft and stuff, which is another position where like you can be yourself. You don't have to, yeah. So but I meet a lot of them, and a lot of them, they're masters of their craft. So in the end, no matter who they work for, they don't have to play a certain way at work. Like if any one of their bosses talks at them the wrong way or comes wrong at them, they be like, nigga, fuck you. Because they already know when you're a master of your craft, you can get like hired anywhere else. They never have to dim their light. They can go to sleep and sleep with integrity and keep their moral compass and shit. So I guess there is a way to work in different corporate. It's hard to find like corporate schemes where you could work, where you could like be your master without dimming your light. But yeah. Another thing too, I'm noticing with this law especially, and with other laws that I'm reading in Green's book, is like, me always look too deep into stuff, but I be feeling like if I was Robert Greene, I would be a genius. If I was, like, imagine Robert Greene, I imagine is already looked at as a master in certain ways. You know what I'm saying? I believe he would probably be one of the masters he's speaking of. So imagine like I'm Robert Greene and I'm writing a book about being a boss and being the master. That would be genius if my first law was like, nigga, never outshine me. I'm writing this book and my first law telling you is never outshine me. Play dumb, play dumber than you are, play this character underneath you so that you never, you know what I'm saying? Like, it makes sense to me. It's like a boss writing a book telling his workers, like, don't ever outshine me. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting. Yeah. But oh yeah. And another thing too is, to me, real internal masters, you don't have any problems working for people like that. People that really are gods of themselves, they're not like, they're not uncomfortable by you having a strong light, or by your charisma, or by whatever it is that you bring to the table. They'll encourage you to shine. Real masters or real bosses would encourage you to achieve like the same types of positions as them, if not achieve higher. They want you to do well. I harken back to another Dame Dash example. I don't know if you all have seen Backstage. I think it's Backstage. But Dame Dash has this conversation with DJ Clue, and he's pretty much telling him to, you know, elevate the people up under him, to give them, you know, certain positions of power, so that the goal is eventually to have a circle of bosses, like people around you. Like a real boss or a real master isn't really defined by the workers up under him. To me, he wants to create a circle of bosses. He wants to create a circle of masters, so that if one falls, then you got a circle of other people who can bring you back up. That's kind of what Dame was talking about to DJ Clue. He was like, you want like a circle of millionaires. You don't want to be the only millionaire and everybody up under you is like, just work for you and is poor. If something happens to you, then all y'all are fucked. If you create with other bosses and connect and elevate the people around you to be like, you know, of positions of power, then you're building something that's almost like impenetrable, you know? Sorry guys. Turnover is external master. Okay. Okay. And I think that goes the same thing with like friends and stuff too. If you're ever around certain people in your life and you actually feel like you have to dim your light around them to make them feel comfortable, then you're around the wrong people too. That's why I always look at friends and supposed external masters is people come into your life for seasons. That doesn't mean that they have to be in your life forever, because if you ever get that feeling to where you're getting to a certain position where you, even if you're like elevating at certain parts in your life and maybe they're not or whatever, and it's like, but you still want to, okay, you play like this character of the same person maybe you were, or the same, just playing a certain character to make them feel comfortable, then you might be outgrowing that circle that you're around. The same way as with these jobs. It's just, there are parallels between those two relationships. But yeah. Okay, well, like I said, I know there's some stuff, but basically I mainly have a problem with him using the term master to describe these people, because in my mind they're external masters, which aren't masters at all. External masters, the difference is external masters only feel like masters based upon maybe monetary wealth, like I said, how many workers they have under them, or just some position or rank that was given to them from somebody else. Internal masters are based more upon having a high moral compass, high spiritual IQ, and high integrity. And so basically I say that this law, the tool that he gives you in this law is to not outshine the master. So I guess the tool he's giving you in this law is to be less than you are. Don't be all of you. Belittle yourself is the tool he's giving you. And in the future, so I guess, because I want to give you all tools to build your internal power. And in the future, I'll have certain tools to build your internal power, such as like meditation and self-hypnosis and, just different stuff. Even mental masturbation, I'll go into that later. I know that sounds crazy, but I'll have a whole chapter on that. But, yeah. But basically, since this tool is about, his tool in this law is about belittling yourself, I'm telling you to do the opposite, because everything he's telling you to do to achieve external power in this law is the opposite of what you need to do to build internal power. Internal power is about letting that light shine. It's about being you at all times. Letting your integrity shine. Letting your moral compass shine. Being that person. Be that master that you would like to see. It's almost like be that change you want to see. You know you work for a fuck nigga. So in the end, be the type of master that you feel like you would want to, I guess, work. I don't want to say work for, but work with. So in the future, I'm going to give tools on how to build your internal power. And basically, just this first law is just based upon just don't listen to this first law. If you're trying to build your internal power, ignore this first law. Yeah. But like I said, yeah. So that's what the first law is about. And just shine. Be the master. Shine bright. Never dim your light. If you're not working at a job where you can do that, then either find another job or create your own job to where you can. And